Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the lives of history's most fascinating figures. And today, we're going to explore the life of a man who, though not a warrior, wielded immense influence on the battlefield of ideas, Philip Melanchthon. A pivotal figure in the Protestant Reformation, Melanchthon's impact on Western Christianity and education is still felt today. Born on February 16, 1497, in Bretten, a small town in the electorate of the Palatinate near Heidelberg, Germany, Philip Melanchthon's life would be marked by an insatiable thirst for knowledge and a profound commitment to his faith. As we step into the world of young Philip, we find ourselves in the midst of a Europe on the cusp of transformation. The Renaissance was in full bloom, with artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo pushing the boundaries of human creativity, while thinkers like Erasmus and Luther challenged the traditional dogma of the Catholic Church. The rumblings of the Reformation were beginning to shake the foundations of Christendom, as reformers questioned the authority of the Pope and the sale of indulgences. It was an era where scholarship and theology were not merely academic pursuits, but held the power to shape the course of history. Philip's early life was nestled within this fertile ground, where intellectual curiosity and religious fervor intertwined like the threads of a rich tapestry. Philip Melanchthon was born to Georg Schwarzert and Barbara Reuter, a family that valued education deeply. His father, an armorer and weapons maker for the Elector Palatine, ensured that Philip received an excellent education from an early age. This emphasis on learning would become a defining characteristic of Melanchthon's life, setting him on a path that would lead to his becoming one of the most respected scholars of his time. The Schwarzert household was a place of lively discussion and debate, where the merits of classical authors like Aristotle and Cicero were weighed against the teachings of the Church Fathers. Young Philip's mind was shaped by these conversations as he learned to navigate the complexities of theology and philosophy with ease. The young Philip's intellectual journey began in the local Latin school in Bretten, where he demonstrated a remarkable aptitude for languages and theology. His prodigious talent caught the attention of his teachers, who encouraged his pursuit of higher learning. In 1507, at the tender age of 10, Melanchthon enrolled in the University of Heidelberg, one of the premier institutions of its time. This was an extraordinary achievement, showcasing not only Philip's intellect but also his family's and society's commitment to nurturing his talents. As he walked through the university's gates, Philip was surrounded by some of the brightest minds of the era, all eager to unlock the secrets of the ancient world. At Heidelberg, Melanchthon immersed himself in the study of classical languages, philosophy, and theology. His academic prowess earned him the respect of his peers and mentors alike. However, it was during these formative years that Philip also faced significant personal challenges, including the loss of his father at a young age. This event, though tragic, seemed to strengthen Melanchthon's resolve to pursue his academic ambitions with even greater fervor. He threw himself into his studies, finding solace in the words of the ancient Greeks and Romans, as well as the writings of the early Church Fathers. The early 16th century was a time of great intellectual and religious upheaval in Europe. As Melanchthon delved deeper into his studies, he became increasingly exposed to the ideas of reformers like Martin Luther, whose critiques of Catholic doctrine were beginning to resonate throughout Germany. Philip's own theological perspectives began to take shape during this period, influenced by both the traditional teachings of the Church and the emerging thoughts of the Reformation. He was particularly drawn to the works of Erasmus, who advocated for a return to the simplicity and purity of early Christianity. These ideas would later shape Melanchthon's own approach to theology and education. In 1512, Melanchthon moved to the University of Tübingen, where he would earn his master's degree in 1506. Tübingen provided him with a rich environment for intellectual growth, exposing him to some of the leading minds of the time. It was here that Philip began to forge relationships and alliances that would play crucial roles in his future endeavors, both academic and theological. He became close friends with scholars like Joachim Camerarius, who shared his passion for classical learning and reform. Together, they explored the works of ancient authors, seeking to apply their insights to the challenges of the modern world. His intellectual gifts, coupled with his deep faith and personal resilience, positioned him uniquely to contribute to the seismic shifts taking place in European society. His journey from Breton to the forefront of theological and educational reform was just beginning, fueled by an insatiable curiosity and a passion for learning that would leave an indelible mark on history. As Melanchthon's academic career flourished, he became increasingly drawn into the orbit of Martin Luther, the charismatic leader of the Reformation. The year was 1518. And the University of Wittenberg, where Luther was already teaching theology, would become the epicenter of a revolution that would shake the foundations of Christendom. Melanchthon's appointment as a professor of Greek at this esteemed institution marked the beginning of a lifelong friendship and collaboration between the two men, with Melanchthon playing a crucial role in shaping the theological and educational foundations of the Reformation. The University of Wittenberg, with its Gothic spires and timber-framed buildings, was abuzz with intellectual fervor. The air was thick with the smell of parchment and ink, as scholars pored over ancient texts and engaged in heated debates about the nature of faith and salvation. It was here that Melanchthon and Luther forged a partnership that would change the course of history. Their conversations, often stretching late into the night, ranged from the finer points of biblical exegesis to the implications of their theological ideas for the broader Christian world. One of Melanchthon's most significant contributions during this period was his work on the Augsburg Confession, a seminal document that outlined the core principles of Lutheran theology. Written in 1530, the Confession was a masterful synthesis of biblical doctrine and ecclesiastical tradition, and it would go on to become a cornerstone of Protestant identity. Melanchthon's role in drafting the Confession was instrumental, as he brought his vast knowledge of classical languages and theology to bear on the project. His collaboration with Luther and other reformers resulted in a document that was both deeply rooted in Scripture and accessible to a broad audience. As they worked tirelessly to craft the Augsburg Confession, Melanchthon and Luther found themselves grappling with the complexities of theological language and the nuances of biblical interpretation. Their discussions were marked by a deep respect for one another's perspectives, even as they navigated the treacherous waters of doctrinal debate. On one occasion, Luther is said to have remarked, "I am rough, boisterous, and tasteless," while Melanchthon is gentle, refined, and tasteful, highlighting the complementary nature of their personalities and intellectual styles. This synergy would prove essential in shaping the theological landscape of the Reformation. In addition to his work on the Augsburg Confession, Melanchthon was a prolific writer and educator, producing numerous commentaries on classical texts and biblical scriptures. His commentary on Aristotle's Rhetoric, published in 1529, is particularly noteworthy, as it demonstrates his ability to engage with pagan authors while still maintaining a distinctly Christian perspective. This work showcases Melanchthon's commitment to the idea that classical learning and Christian theology were not mutually exclusive, but rather complementary aspects of a broader intellectual and spiritual landscape. As the 1530s and 1540s unfolded, Melanchthon continued to play a leading role in shaping the Reformation, serving as a mediator between Luther and other reformers, such as John Calvin and Huldrych Zwingli. His diplomatic skills and theological acumen were essential in navigating the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized this period. In 1537, Melanchthon was instrumental in drafting the Smalcald Articles, a comprehensive statement of Lutheran doctrine that would serve as a foundation for future generations of Protestant theologians. The Smalcald Articles, with their precise language and theological clarity, represented a major milestone in the development of Lutheran theology. Melanchthon's contribution to this document was significant, as he worked tirelessly to ensure that the articles accurately reflected the core principles of the Reformation. His commitment to the ideals of humanism and the Reformation had created a new model for theological education, one that emphasized the importance of classical learning, biblical study, and pastoral formation. As Melanchthon's reputation as a scholar and educator spread far beyond Wittenberg, he attracted students and admirers from across Europe. His commitment to the ideals of humanism and the Reformation had created a new model for theological education, one that would continue to shape Protestant theology and education for centuries to come. Figures such as Calvin, Philip Melanchthon's own grandson, and countless others who followed in his footsteps would be influenced by his work, ensuring that the legacy of the Reformation would endure. In the midst of these accomplishments, Melanchthon remained devoted to his teaching and writing, producing works such as De Anima, a treatise on the nature of the human soul, and Elementorum Rhetorices, a textbook on rhetoric that would become a standard reference for generations of students. These writings demonstrate Melanchthon's remarkable range and versatility as a scholar, as well as his ability to communicate complex ideas with clarity and precision. As the Reformation continued to unfold, Melanchthon found himself at the center of a maelstrom of theological controversy and ecclesiastical politics. Despite these challenges, he remained steadfast in his commitment to the principles of the Reformation, working tirelessly to promote the cause of Protestantism through his writing, teaching, and diplomacy. His contributions to this movement were incalculable, shaping the course of Christian history in ways that would be felt for centuries to come. Throughout his life, Melanchthon had walked a fine line between theological conviction and ecclesiastical pragmatism. He had navigated the treacherous waters of Reformation politics with skill and diplomacy, always seeking to promote the cause of Protestantism while avoiding unnecessary conflict. As he looked out upon the landscape of Christendom, he knew that the work of the Reformation was far from over. Yet, he also knew that the seeds of reform had been sown, and that the harvest of a new era in Christian history was already beginning to emerge. As the years unfolded like a rich tapestry, Philip Melanchthon's influence continued to grow, and he became known as the Teacher of Germany for his role in shaping the country's theological and educational landscape. The weight of his responsibilities was crushing at times, but he stood firm, like a rock against which the waves of criticism from both Catholics and radical Protestants crashed. Despite facing numerous challenges and controversies that threatened to upend his vision of a reformed church and society, Melanchthon remained committed to his ideals, fueled by an unyielding passion for the truth. In his later years, he turned his attention to the task of systematizing Lutheran theology, producing works such as Loci Communes and Doctrinae Christianae, which would become foundational texts for generations of Protestant theologians. As he delved into the complexities of theology, he was driven by a sense of purpose, knowing that his work would have far-reaching consequences for the Church and the world. The year 1555 marked a significant milestone in the history of the Reformation, as Melanchthon played a key role in drafting the Peace of Augsburg, a landmark treaty that recognized the coexistence of Catholicism and Lutheranism within the Holy Roman Empire. This achievement was a masterful display of diplomatic skill, as Melanchthon navigated the treacherous waters of theological differences and political intrigue to forge a lasting peace. As he himself observed, the peace of the Church is not to be found in the silence of the tongue, but in the unity of the heart. These words reflect his deep commitment to the cause of Christian unity, even in the face of profound theological differences. As Melanchthon's health began to decline, he continued to work tirelessly, producing some of his most important writings in the final years of his life. In 1560, he published De Anima, a treatise on the nature of the human soul that showcased his mastery of biblical theology and philosophical insight. This work, like so many others, demonstrated Melanchthon's remarkable ability to balance intellectual rigor with spiritual depth, making him one of the most beloved and respected figures of the Reformation. The news of his declining health sent shockwaves throughout Europe as theologians, scholars, and politicians alike realized that an era was coming to a close. On April 19, 1560, Philip Melanchthon passed away in Wittenberg, surrounded by his friends and colleagues who mourned the loss of a man who had given his life to the service of the gospel. Today, Philip Melanchthon is remembered as one of the most important figures of the Reformation, a true giant of Christian history. His contributions to theology, education, and politics continue to influence our modern world, from the shape of Protestant worship to the development of modern nation-states. He was a man of immense intelligence, unwavering commitment, and unshakable faith who left an indelible mark on the world. His life serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of adversity, conviction and perseverance can lead to remarkable achievements. As we march toward victory, let us draw inspiration from the life and legacy of this remarkable individual who demonstrated that with faith, intellect, and determination, we can overcome even the most daunting challenges. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.